A long time ago, movie tie-in games were everywhere, especially of the kids variety. With almost every movie, there was a game to go along with it. The quality was almost always poor, ranging from mediocre to ungodly terrible. However, sometimes you get a miracle. A good movie tie-in game. Today, I'll be talking about just that. The game that, in my opinion, is the greatest movie tie-in game ever created. TMNT, based on the 2007 movie of the same name. Also, yes, I know there are movie tie-in games out there that are definitely much better than this. Spider-Man 2 is one that comes to mind. But look, I grew up with this game, so unfortunately, my judgment has been clouded by nostalgia. I know the title says that this is the best one, but that's because hyperbole gets you way more clicks. Please do not get mad at me. What I mean to say is, don't take this video as a serious review. I just wanted to talk about a game from my childhood that I really like. Got it?
Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin then. So, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You've probably heard of them. They started out as a comic from '84 and have had many adaptations since then, including TV shows, movies, and a whole lot of merchandise. There was a CG animated Turtles movie from 2007, which served as somewhat of a continuation of the two live-action movies from the 90s. Yes, there were only two, and you cannot tell me otherwise.
Absolutely! Shwing!
Fuck you.
There were also those Michael Bay movies, which were,
Oh, Neil, what are you doing? Yeah, that's good.
okay. Anyways, I used to watch this movie so much as a kid. I loved it a lot, so of course I played the game that was based on it. I'd be stupid not to. And this game, just like the movie, was something I loved a whole lot. It seemed like a perfect masterpiece to me back in the day. But is it really that good? That's what I'm gonna be looking at today, so let's see if this game from my childhood still holds up today. So let's begin with the... The game's story is of course based on the story of the movie, although fairly loosely, which wasn't uncommon for this kind of game. The main plot is here, it's just that many of the situations have been altered pretty heavily. If you don't know what that plot is, by the way, here's a short summary. After the defeat of Shredder, the Turtles have grown quite distant from each other, which makes Splinter very worried. Donatello and Michelangelo each got a job. Donnie works as an IT specialist and Mikey started a party business called Cowabunga Carl. Raphael became the vigilante known as the Night Watcher, and Leonardo went to South America to train to become a better leader. Meanwhile, Max Winters, the head of Winterscorp, revives 4 ancient stone warriors and enlists the help of the Foot Clan to capture monsters. Now, it's up to the Turtles to save the day. So that's basically all you need to know. Now, how much of that is explained in the game? Not much, really. You really need to have seen the movie to understand what's going on in the game, because my god, the plot is not explained to you well at all. Although, if you have seen the movie, it's a bit easier to follow. The story is explained to you through these pretty neat comic book style cutscenes and narration throughout the levels, with some clips from the movie itself thrown in. The Turtles act as the narrator, telling the story as if it has already happened. There's also quite a bit of voice acting in the game, especially for the Turtles themselves, who are actually voiced by the same voice actors as in the movie, which is pretty darn neat. This voice acting is pretty cool to have, although the frequently repeated voice lines during gameplay can get slightly annoying. If I have to hear "awesomely super sensational list, bro" ever again, I will die. Visually, this game looks pretty good. The areas all look as they're supposed to. It's nothing mind-blowing or anything, but it's still good. And it actually has some really cool-looking environments.
Whoa, nice graphics!
The part that looks the best, in my opinion, is the character models. I think these look really nice, and they all look like they came straight out of the movie. Of course, not as high quality, this is a PS2 era game after all. It is kind of disappointing that all the turtles have the same model though, with only the colors and weapons changing. They all just kinda look like Leonardo. But, you know, it's fine, you don't really notice during gameplay. What is slightly odd, however, is that Raphael's unmasked Night Watcher model has a different, more movie-accurate head. While I do prefer every turtle having a different model, I really wish they just kept it the same as the rest, just so it's a lot more consistent. Oh, now that's more like it! This part is gonna be pretty short, but I really wanted to mention this here. The soundtrack slaps so freaking hard and really makes everything about this game feel so much more cool. Just take a listen. This is honestly one of the best parts of the game, no one can tell me otherwise. If you disagree with me, however, then... oh boy. I don't know, it's your opinion, I don't really care. The gameplay consists of two parts, platforming and combat. So let's start with the platforming, since it is by far the better part of the game. There honestly isn't that much to talk about in terms of the platforming itself. It's perfectly fine and I never really had many issues with it, although it's not flawless. The wall running is definitely something I've had the most issues with. Sometimes it's too sensitive, sometimes it's not sensitive enough, and never does it feel quite right. Another issue I've had, although much smaller, is the camera. There's no camera control, which for platformers is usually bad news, but I've honestly not had that many issues with it in this game. The positioning is usually perfectly fine, although sometimes it absolutely is less than ideal. And because you can't move the camera yourself, when there's a bad camera angle, you're kinda screwed. This can lead to some issues for the platforming, mainly depth perception related in my experience. Outside of these issues, however, there isn't much wrong with the platforming. The platforming is pretty fun, and there's a nice variety of locations to play through. From the Central American jungles, to the rooftops of NYC, to the sewers, and an underground medieval castle? Dungeon? Catacomb? Huh? And there's also this level where there's a church in the middle of a goddamn sewer system, like, what? I did say this follows the movie pretty loosely, didn't I? The combat is one of the most important things in a Ninja Turtles game. It's one of the main things you'll be doing, and it should be one of the most fun parts of the game. So, of course this game has phenomenal combat. I don't like the combat in this game. I mean, the combat works, it's functional, but I just have so many issues with it that don't make it very enjoyable for me. Some of these issues include... it's very repetitive. There isn't much enemy variety, and the combat itself is way too simplistic to be engaging. This simplistic combat also results in the fights being not much more than pure button mashing. Hitting enemies can be difficult. There isn't any kind of lock-on system, which makes it pretty difficult to hit enemies sometimes, and really easy for the enemies to hit you. It's not all bad though. The fighting can actually be pretty fun when you're doing well. It's just that the aforementioned issues can prevent this from happening, and that's no fun. But who knows, maybe I'm just bad at video games. Yeah, that's probably it. One part of the combat that I think this game actually does quite well is the turtles' individual abilities. Every turtle feels different from the other, which makes switching between them a pretty useful feature. Stuff like attack speed and range differs quite a bit between them. Each turtle also has a special ability that can be used during platforming sections. Leonardo can phase through metal bars. I'm pretty sure this is only used like 2 times though, so it's not that important. Raphael can climb walls with his size. Not all walls though, only some of them. Just the red ones. He's just that cool. Michelangelo can fly by using his nunchucks as propellers. I have spent years trying to figure out how the hell the physics work with this, and I have yet to find an answer. I'll let you know when I find something though, don't worry. And finally, Donatello can use his staff to make large leaps forward. I have literally only used this a couple times, and I honestly kinda forgot this was even something he could do. These abilities are kinda cool, but my issue with them is that they are very situational and are rarely used outside of the first couple levels. Michelangelo's flying ability, for example, is completely overshadowed by the team jump you learn later in the game. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Once you're far enough into the story, you start getting levels where you can play as every turtle by switching between them. Not from the very start of the level, oh no, that will make too much sense. No, you have to earn it. You must showcase your ninja abilities in order to play as the other turtles. Sounds super cool and annoying, right? Well, it pretty much just turns into me jumping around like an idiot until I can play as every turtle. So it's just kind of annoying, and I would have definitely preferred it if you could just play as all of them from the start of the level. But that's just too much fun, I guess. Once you have another turtle on your side, you can use team abilities. Sounds pretty cool, and it is, for the most part. You have this much longer team jump that I mentioned before, which is very useful and can be used to get over large gaps, but also during combat, which can be pretty handy. My only issue with it is that if you hit a wall even slightly during it, you will fail the jump and you'll lose one of your turtles, which is immensely irritating. So as handy as it can be, I kind of avoid using it for this very reason. There's also these team abilities you can use during combat. Every turtle has his own ability, so I'll just list them all here. Leonardo can do this ground pound, which can be pretty useful if there are enemies nearby, of course. Michelangelo can swing one of his brothers around in a circle and hit any enemy around you. This ability is really fun and effective when you are actually near a large group of enemies. But if not, well, then you're just really slowly walking towards an enemy and most of the time hit absolutely nothing. Donatello can stun all enemies, which is definitely handy with pretty much any number of enemies, so I don't really have a complaint about this one. Good job, game! And last but not least, Raphael throws one of his brothers straight at an enemy, killing them instantly. Actually hitting an enemy can be an issue, however, but once you get it right, oh boy, that's so satisfying. So yeah, these Steam abilities are pretty good for the most part. I of course have some issues with them, but they're still pretty fun. Which is basically how I feel about this entire game, but we'll get to that in a moment. First we'll have to talk about... So, what do you do once you finish the game? Do you just return to your boring life, knowing you've seen all that TMNT 2007 the game has to offer? Well, fear not, because this game has extras. Yeah, I know, awesome. But what are these extras, you ask? Let me show you. There are these challenge maps you can do. I don't have a whole lot to say about these because I honestly never got too into these, but they're there if you want. Big head mode. You can unlock concept art. Wow! Stills from the movie. Holy shit! And most exciting of all, clips from the movie in really low quality. Yay! These aren't all too exciting to say the least. I mean, the concept art is kinda neat I guess, but not much more than that. But the best extra of them all are these little comedy shorts that all feature unnamed white Ninja Turtles who are stuck in a white void, being forced to endure unending pain and torture. Like, there's this one which makes me cry every single time. Warning, the following footage is quite shocking. And then there's one who does funny fall. I remember really enjoying these extras as a kid, but now that I'm a slightly older kid, I don't really care too much for the most part. The shorts are nice, but you know, not for the easily disturbed. So, is there anything else to talk about? No? Well, then I guess it's time to move on to the... So, in conclusion, is this game as good as I remember? Sadly, no. And is this game truly the best movie tie-in game? Oh god, no. It definitely doesn't live up to my memories of it, and honestly, that's okay. I still had a blast going through this childhood game of mine again. The game is still really fun and has a lot of charm to it, for me anyways. Now, how much of that is nostalgia speaking, it's hard to say, but I would still recommend it to people. It has a whole lot of flaws that are kind of hard to ignore, but it's still a whole lot of fun. I'm sure we all have these games that we used to play as kids and used to think were the greatest things ever, only to discover years later they might not have been quite as good as we remember. But nostalgia can still make you enjoy a game, even if everyone else dislikes it. I think as long as you acknowledge that nostalgia, it's perfectly fine to enjoy it. Hell, sometimes it's not even nostalgia, sometimes you just like something that others don't. It's all fine. We all have different opinions at the end of the day, and you shouldn't get mad at someone for simply enjoying a game you don't like, or vice versa. Wow, I got a little emotional there, didn't I? Well, to finish off, I thought I'd do a bit of an exciting interview with my actual turtle to get her thoughts about the accuracy of both the movie and the game to real life. I think that could be very interesting and educational. So let's see that then. So I'm here with my unnamed turtle. Unnamed turtle, how accurate is TMNT 2007 to real life turtles? In your opinion, of course.